guys! So, I know I was just talking about playing Fallout and Skyrim, and while I did get Fallout downloaded, I ran into a lot of problems with mods and just getting it to function properly. I spent the better part of a day running into several different issues, and eventually I decided to just play Mass Effect 2 instead. Do you remember a long time ago when I got the Mass Effect Legendary Edition and I complained about Origin giving me crap with downloading it? That was a long time ago. But I actually did finish the first Mass Effect back then. It was actually around the time I did my Alistair video. I always meant to go back and make some content for the game, but it was just never a good time. But it didn't make sense to just start making content for Mass Effect 2 without first going over the original game, or at the very least, the original review that I wrote for the first Mass Effect. I might go over the Kaidan Romance 2 at some point, but ultimately I plan to get to Mass Effect 2 and go over all of that romance drama before I move on to Mass Effect 3 and beyond, potentially. So I'm just gonna say up front, I was like this with Dragon Age 2, and I think it's going to be the same sort of thing with Mass Effect as well. But I think I'm just one of those people that really likes the way BioWare did things back in the day. There just seems to be a magic with those first in the series games, and I know not everyone agrees with me on this. I've seen plenty of people say Origins was awful, but my first time playing through Mass Effect was just amazing, and it actually reminded me a lot of playing through Origins. And now, you're probably wondering, how can I even capture any of that original excitement, considering I finished the game a while ago? But thankfully, as I mentioned, I wrote everything down, and it's a good thing I did, because it's basically impossible to recapture exactly how you felt at the very moment you first played and beat an excellent game. Also, I'll warn you, there's a lot of spoilers here, so if you haven't played the first Mass Effect game and you plan to someday, don't watch any further. And now I'm going to hand this off to past Mmogurl that just finished playing and had to get all the feels out in a Word doc. I get pretty freaking excited here, like it's a mega nerd out, so just be prepared for that. And I'm going to try my best to read this the way it should be read, even though technically I've already played through most of the second game too now, so just bear with me. So I just finished Mass Effect for the first time, and holy crap, it was so excellent. To be honest, it's taking every bit of self-control I have to write this script instead of just starting up the second game. But I'm trying to be good here so that I can talk about what I thought of the whole experience while it's still fresh. Ironically, I most wanted to play this game because I knew it offered romances with your companions, and as you guys already know, that's sort of my thing. So I was pleasantly surprised when the game and the story itself ended up taking front and center stage to even the romance factor for me. In this video, I'm strictly going to talk about my response to the game as a whole, to beating it for the first time, as well as recalling my experiences as I played through it. Think of it sort of like a review, but more personal. So to start, I've got to say I don't normally like shooters. It's a weird place to be in because I often like the stories associated with shooters, but I don't always like the stress of playing a shooter. Perfect example of this is Titanfall 2. I really wanted something with a mech in it, and the game was good. It was really good, but I stopped playing it a good portion of the way through the game because I just didn't like the stress of playing it. I did play BioShock Infinite all the way through, but the earlier games freaked me out. Like, I could not play through the first game. I also played the first Fear all the way through, but I really enjoyed the combat and the guns in that game at least. But the game that really springs to mind when I think of Mass Effect 1 is Halo. I know what you're thinking. Halo? Halo sucks. But you know, I'm old, and I actually played the first Halo on the very first Xbox. I used to go to LAN parties with friends from work because I worked at GameStop, and we had game nights very frequently. And while I wasn't that great to begin with, I got better. More than that, I enjoyed the mechanics of the game immensely. The physics, the grenades, the guns, the warthog. It was all good. It wasn't long until I was playing the main campaign by myself at home to see what the rest of the game had to offer. And you know, at first you're just fighting aliens, but then when I got to the part about the flood and what the Halo was actually used for, oh man, it was like mind blown. This is amazing. At the time it was just good, and honestly, I'd love to play it again because it's been so long. It's not like the stories are similar, it's more that the gameplay and the story line up just so, and it allowed me to enjoy something I don't normally enjoy as much. And Mass Effect is way better not only in depth of story, but also the RPG elements that allow you to customize your Shepard and your crew as well. Being able to have your team there for backup also helps to alleviate any of the stress I might feel from being backed into a corner, because there's at least other targets there to help you soak bullets and take enemies down. Now granted, I was playing on casual, but by the end of the game I felt really frickin' competent, even when faced with some intimidating foes. And that is something that really elevates this above a game like Halo, because there is so much customization available. Not only in your class choices, but also in your specializations, and then your talent trees, even down to the types of rounds you can put in your gun or upgrades. There's a lot of freedom to build yourself in a specific way, and I really liked that. The gameplay itself feels really good, and even the flow of the game works really well, never leaving you to feel too bored with any one thing. You can do main story missions, or spend a bunch of time doing side quests, and just exploring a bunch of planets. In between each main story mission, you can talk with your companions, and work on progressing your romance as well. It just feels like a really balanced system, one that doesn't ever leave me feeling like I'm doing one thing for too long. And the story, man, the story really caught me off guard. And if you don't want any spoilers, now is probably the time to stop listening, but I love how the Protheans, an ancient alien civilization only talked about but never really comprehended by you as the player, actually becomes a reality. You actually go to one of their planets and get to see what they looked like. You find out exactly what became of them, and they end up being your salvation. It was so cool. I was nerding out completely during the entire mission to Elos. I mean, everything up to that point was done well too, but the Protheans shocked me because I didn't realize how little I cared, because that understanding, the comprehension just wasn't there. But almost every major story arc was compelling too. Novaria, where you run into the resurrected Rachni that you've been hearing about here and there, and you're faced with the choice to kill or save the Rachni Queen. The insanity of the Thorian on Pharos and trying to save the poor colonists from its grasp by throwing gas grenades at them. And then there's the ever-doubting council. They seem to think anything you say is preposterous, and honestly, I don't think there was a time throughout the entire game that I thought they were being reasonable, besides maybe when they made Shepard a Spectre. I don't know about you, but I let them die. I am curious to find out what happens if you decide to save them though, and I'll probably have to check that out in another game. But then I won't be able to play Mass Effect 2, and I really want to play Mass Effect 2. It was such a tease having to fight beside Garrus, knowing I could romance him in the second game, but there was no such option in the first game. Instead, I had a tendency to hang out with Rex, who is probably one of my favorite characters. But back to the story. The end. Holy crap, it was so good. Finding out that Saren's ship is a frickin' Reaper? I mean, what? I didn't see that shit coming. And then you find out that the Citadel is one big mass relay that the Reapers use as a honeypot to lure new civilizations in. And the Keepers, they were there the whole time. And I never finished that quest to scan them all, so I don't even know what happened there. But it was like, wow, it was all connected. And then there is that crazy awesome scene where you're climbing up the outside of the Citadel Tower. At least I think that's what it was. And Sovereign is just up there attached to it. And it's so cool. And you get inside finally to get to Saren, and I thought it was going to be some big, huge boss fight. But then he just shot himself, and I thought for sure I could talk some sense into him. But then Sovereign possesses his dead body, and then I got my big, nasty boss fight. And in the middle of all this, you have to make that choice. Save the council, focus on Sovereign, and I'm thinking, well, I don't like the council, but the reality is that if Sovereign manages to get control and let all the Reapers through, then we're screwed. So I chose to go after him, and it was epic. So freaking epic. Did you guys watch The Expanse at all? You know, back when it was good. I haven't really gotten into the past 2 seasons, but the first 3 were excellent. It reminded me a lot of how awesome some of those space battles were. I was just in complete and total awe. It was amazing. And in the end, watching that big nasty Sovereign get blown to bits was so freaking satisfying. After Saren had given up all hope of ever beating the Reapers, so much so that his only way out for sentient life in space was to be a slave to them. And yet here we are, beating him. I mean, at least for now. I love a story like this. It really does speak for everything that makes us human. Throughout history, we are really good at surviving things that we shouldn't be able to, by overcoming extreme odds and fighting and being stubborn and putting everything we have together to do the impossible. Everyone always likes to be a nihilist and talk about how awful humans are, but we're frickin' impressive, and we'll continue to be impressive for a long time to come. And this game made me realize, even, that I've been in sort of a gray area in my own life and how I've been thinking about things. I'm still looking for a home and the market has been insane. People are bidding sometimes $20,000 over asking price, sometimes more. It's been making me feel so defeated, like we're just going to get stuck getting completely ripped off no matter what we do. I've had so many times I've felt like just giving up or admitting defeat before it's actually over just from a couple bad experiences. And this game made me realize that I've been acting like Saren all along. I'd already given myself up to the Reapers and an awful future where I can never get a new home in a place I want to live. I'd already acquiesced in so many ways that I was just cursed or had bad luck, and nothing was going to work out for me. It was lame. And my very renegade Shepard taught me to stop being so lame, to fight for what I want, and to keep going even against overwhelming odds. And damn it, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get that damn house and I'm going to move. And that is why we need stories like this, games like this. It's so much like what I was talking about when I did that video recently on Alistair's romance, where I talked at the end about how games like this, the true gems that make us wish we could actually live in that world because it's so awesome. It doesn't have to be depressing when you come back from the game, though, and you're stuck in your real life. If you find a way to take what the game has taught you and apply it to real life, or at least, take a simple thing away from it, like stop being a coward. Still, I love how passionate this game made me feel. It revitalized me in so many ways. It was wonderful to find this beautiful game and fall in love with it, to know I have a bunch of fresh new playthroughs where I can try completely new choices, to know I have Mass Effect 2 and 3 and even Andromeda if I want, although I don't know what the deal is with that game, but will soon enough, I guess. And I remember all the shit people talked about the ending to ME3, and that worries me a bit, but I'm just gonna play it and experience it for myself, I guess. I know BioWare isn't in the same place they were when they first created Dragon Age Origins and Mass Effect 1, but I have to say my hat off to all of those involved in the creation of these fine specimens. I legit cried when I thought my Shepard was dead at the end of the game. I saw Kaidan and Rex sitting there looking devastated that I was gone, and when she ran out from the rubble, a huge smile crossed my face. I was so happy. You guys did a really good job with this one, and aside from Kaidan's weird eyes, the Legendary version looks phenomenal too. I could make a whole other video just on how beautiful some of the planets were, and I might one day, but I think I've gone on long enough, and most of you can probably get the gist of this review. It's good. I really loved it, and I'm happy to be able to finally understand the story and some of the characters that I've seen and heard about over the years. And I feel legitimately ashamed of myself for ever even considering the idea of skipping this game and going straight to Mass Effect 2. This one is getting added to the favorites pile. If anyone wants to gush about the first game with me, first-timers or veterans are welcome. But please avoid mentioning any spoilers for the later games because I haven't played any of them yet. Okay, switching back to present time again. But it's funny even in reading this script again at how much things have changed. For one, I actually took what I learned from Shepard and I did get that house halfway across the country that I wanted. It was absolute hell to get it done, but I did it. I also am actively running a farm now, even though I have zero experience owning livestock. But damn it, I wanted to do it, and so I did the research and I put fencing up, and now I have alpacas. I also found it funny to hear myself complain about shooters. I think it was because I had just played Titanfall 2, and man, that game had some insane levels. I remember the last one I played had like all these conveyor belts and jumping, and it was just insane. Like, I actually beat the level, but after that, I just didn't want to play anymore. It must have been really heavy on my mind. But, I have played lots of games with guns that didn't bother me, like Cyberpunk is a perfect example. I'd mentioned Fallout, but technically you can use VATS and not even worry about aiming, so I don't know if that counts. Warframe also really acclimated me to moving quickly. If I had to rewrite any paragraphs in the script, that would probably have been it, because I just don't entirely agree with it anymore. But aside from that, I'm happy to have read this old script because I thought it so beautifully captured my feelings on the first game. It was inspirational, you know? I wish there were more games like it. So how about it? Do y'all want to see the Caden romance, or should we go straight to Garrus? Have a good week, you guys. I'll see you later.